Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited to have one of our very favorite people back with us, William Steiner. Let me tell you a little bit about him. William is the owner and founder of W.H. Steiner, who specializes in teaching how to build wealth tax-free, yay, with the power of uninterrupted, are you ready? Compound interest, while safely avoiding the volatility of the insurance industry market. Insurance has evolved, and the 702 plan provides information on accumulating cash using the IRS tax code 7702. Create unprecedented levels of wealth by learning more about our 702S plan. Through his services, William helps individuals and families learn risk-free techniques that can lead to generational wealth creation for their families and communities. William is dedicated to providing this education, hence our community remains vital for future generations. And today he is speaking about, and I'll tell you in a second, has something to do with millionaires. How do millionaires use an IRS rule? So William, I found this quote. Just the way you do things, I really like this. It's Pablo Picasso. And he said, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. Pablo, he's something, isn't he? So, William, please, we're so thrilled to have you here. I would love you to take it away. Tell us about how millionaires use the IRS rules to avoid taxes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Peggy, for your warm introduction. Thank you for re-inviting me back for a second time. We made, I suspect, a good impression the first time. And today we're going to shorten up the information because I believe that, great information is good to learn, but if it's so much information, everyone leaves a little overwhelmed and it's hard to remember everything. So today we're going to be a little bit more on point and focus on the two things, and primarily what most people are very interested to learn about is how to accumulate, create tax-free income or distribution. So today, instead of doing a lot of talking, I'm going to be doing a little more asking of questions on those who have arrived. Because at the end of the day, if this is something you want, then you want to know more about it. If it's not something that, or maybe you already have it, then it would be great for you to listen and share what you know along with the others here to learn as well. So I'm going to start with a little screenshot of my presentation. But like I said, I'm going to do a little bit more asking, and I'm going to take notes. And due to the fact that it's going to be recorded, all of us can go back on that. And I appreciate that very much. So first of all, we're here to talk about a wealth building strategy which I have invested many years in, and I call it the 702S plan. And what is that plan? It's a wealth building strategy that has to do with a life insurance contract that uses an IRS rule. And we're going to, again, focus more on the IRS rule today. Everyone believes that life insurance is something that's focused on death. This type of contract is about cash accumulation. It's about wealth building. The Rothschild families does it currently and has done it in the past. J.C. Penney used it to keep his business open during the Great Depression. So it's been around more than 100 years. So that's something that we whipped up last year. This has been around a long time. The only difference is it is evolved. Like many industries, we keep getting better at it. So who else do we know that we can all agree that it must be real? Ray Kroc of McDonald's. So how did he get involved? He had a cash accumulation contract, and he used it to buy out the McDonald brothers. Now, obviously, that was a good decision because at the end of the day, McDonald's became a global brand. And there's one other name that I know all of you would know, and that is Walt Disney. Now, why would Walt Disney have something like this when he's in the entertainment world and entertaining children and families? Because at the end of the day, when he went with a vision about a park called Disney World, Disneyland, once in California, once in Florida, but the one in Florida, he said to the bank, I have this great idea and I need money. Well, the banks didn't find his vision as exciting as he did. And at the end of the day, they said no. Walt Disney took his hands and to his own insurance contracts, his own money, his own liquidity, and put it to work. The rest is history. So today we're going to focus on, and again, no surprises, this is tied to a life insurance cash accumulation contract. But the focus of today, because they're investors that want to know, hey, how can I create more wealth? How can I do it safely? And how can I do it accumulating and distribution tax-free? That's what we're going to learn. The IRS rule has been around since 1984, and you'll be able to Google it during this call or after. I hope you'll learn about it, because at the end of the day, when you apply it, you can be wealthy today and learn about this strategy, this rule, and build more wealth. I'm going to ask people that are here that have joined us today, and some of you I can see and some of you I cannot. So I'll just pick the one I can see. Jonah, question, is tax-free, building of tax-free wealth, is that something that you have already, or would you say that's important to you? Would that be something you'd want to have?
I have a little bit, but I would like more.
A little bit. Okay. A little bit is better than nothing, and you can build upon a little bit, right? It only takes one match to light a fire, and with a little wind, you can have a forest fire. So at the end of the day, a little bit is good. So Eugene, do you like the idea of tax-free building, or is that something that you already have in your portfolio?
I hate the idea of tax-free building.
Okay, all right.
I'm being facetious.
I know that, I realize that. And I'm going to come back to you and say, if you learned about a rule that I suspect you didn't know, and I'm going to go around and ask about that. Again, today is not a public speaking engagement. Today is a day that we're going to engage as a group of people and share information to see how we can help one another. And maybe some know and maybe some don't, okay? So Eugene, if in your portfolio of your investments, you probably have some that are taxed and maybe some that are not, or maybe none. In your portfolio, do you have anything that provides tax-free income to you?
We have a lot of money in self-directed IRAs.
Okay, all right. And any that's deferred tax, am I correct? Share with me what that falls out to be, or is that anything from there comes all tax-free?
It's all tax-free.
Okay, and you could put $500,000 or $1 million in an IRA, right?
Yeah, when I retired, I put quite a bit of money in the IRA, and so the IRA owns it. I do not.
Okay, but when it comes to distributing or contributions, can you put 100,000, 200,000, $1 million in an IRA?
Well, that's what I did when I retired. I put 3 million in.
Okay, and so when you take distribution or when that money flows to you back, it's all tax-free.
Yeah, when I reach a certain age, it will be. I'm not old enough for it to be tax-free yet.
Okay, well, stay young, and by the time we get a little older, the money will be there. So with this particular contract, you can withdraw it. It doesn't matter about your age, and you can put any contribution in. There's no limitation. Any plans in the United States, not knowing exactly what your plan was, and I'm not going to pretend to know it to the detail, but there is no plan, 401k or Roth or any of that you could put in any kind of real money. You're limited. So at the end of the day, you can put as much as $2 million a year in a plan like this per year if you choose. Okay, so let's stay on point with the IRS rule. How many people know about the IRS Rule 7702? Just say yes if you know about it. Now, Peggy, you can't say anything because I know you know the answer, and you're like going to become the next expert after me. Has anyone here know about the IRS Rule 7702? Okay, so the answer would be no. And if you called your accountant today, your CPA, your financial advisor, and your banker, and you asked them, hey, John, Mary, Margaret, Peggy, it's Eugene, Patricia, or Jonah, I have a question. I learned about something today, and I'd like to know if you know about it. Maybe you could, we can learn together. Anything about the number 7702 ring a bell with you? I suspect that if you ask many of them, if not all, will say they've never heard about it. So why would that be? Because unless you're licensed, you're trained, you're appointed, and you knew to choose this type of insurance product, you'd actually never know it was available. You wouldn't be able to talk about it because you wouldn't even know of its existence. So it's a very unique product, one of a kind product. It does a lot more than tax-free, but today we're going to learn how that tax-free element is so important to us. And again, if you're not aware of it, you should write down IRS Rule 7702, okay? Rothschild quote, Rothschild family, the Rothschild family is a banking family in Europe, a wealthy family. They all have these type of contracts. And every time they have a grandchild, they make another contract, and the beneficiary is the estate, and they build an empire of wealth. Okay, the amount of wealth you can build in these contracts would be unimaginable, that we as Americans would say, oh, I never knew that existed. But today you will be hearing it, I hope maybe for the second time or the first time. So compound interest, tax-free, is the eighth wonder of the world. See, many people like Einstein said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. But it was Rothschild that said, no, compound interest tax-free is the eighth wonder of the world. And I believe that's a true statement, end quote. So again, we're here to talk about tax rules. A single IRS rule allows for the creation and distribution of wealth tax-free. Remember, accumulation and distribution. That means you grow it and you harvest it absolutely tax-free. How would you do that? Is there a gimmick to that, or is there a trick? No, there's no trick. When you take a loan out of a cash accumulation life insurance contract under compliant rule of IRS Rule 7702, that money is distributed to you and you can use it for any reason, and that is tax-free. So I can't see everyone on this list, but I see a gentleman with a white beard, and it's hard for me to see his name, but I'm going to say, Peggy, his name?
Ted Hollander.
Okay. Hey, Ted, have you ever heard about the IRS Rule 7702? And if you have you applied it in your investment portfolio?
Not enough.
The answer is, you said no, is that right?
Short answer is no, yeah.
Okay. And before today, have you ever heard about the IRS Rule 7702?
I think you were on this program a few weeks back. So that
Yep. Felt like a few weeks, actually been months. Time flies. But yes, I was, and I emphasize this. If you could, and I say if you could apply this in your life today, and it would help you, would you like to learn more about it? And if so, I'd be happy to send you some more information. But do you believe that this potentially could be of help in your life, one way or another? Business, personal, estate planning, anyway, you believe, could it be helpful to you?
maybe.
Okay, well, maybe means that it's possible. Because when we learn something and we see the benefits of it and understand how it could help us, then it goes from maybe to very possible. Peggy, let me ask you, you've heard and me preach about the IRS Rule 7702. Do you believe that most people could and would benefit from this type of rule, from knowing about the IRS? I can't hear you.
You're really hard to
Yeah.
hear.
I know it's hard when you're
And
muted.
when you say most people,
Would you say
most
most?
people is probably not.
Okay. Peggy, go ahead. I was going to let you answer because I couldn't hear.
The 1%ers that you're talking about are not most people.
Now, 1% is not most. That would be the minimum of people, right? Peggy, your thoughts on the IRS Rule 7702?
Yeah, I think it's a great rule. I just don't think people are using it to the greatest advantage.
Right. Well, I don't know the dynamics of everyone's age and or the population, the breakout of the ages, but the IRS Rule 7702 could be applied whether you're a newborn, a working person, an investor at 50 years of age, or a person who may be in the last 10 or 20 years of their life. And whether it's accumulation for yourself or teaching your children or grandchildren about it and giving them something which could reach levels of great wealth tax-free is a gift. And this kind of gift of education would never stop giving. So again, today, I wanted to really emphasize the importance of understanding that this rule has been around, that it can be applied to a very young person or a person in the middle age, a little older, or someone in their last 10 or 20 years of life, whether it's through an estate planning or it's simply by teaching your family, this is available and we should put something together for this person, a child or whatever it may be. When I say a child, it would be an adult child. So that would leave or motivate and inspire a generation of wealth starting to be built through what the Rothschilds do. And that is using a life insurance cash accumulation contract that allows for the growth and distribution to be tax-free. Now, the 702S plan strategy for today's investor, and all of you, I believe, are investors. Having access to your liquidity to take advantage of a market opportunity or opportunities at your discretion without the concern of your current credit or outstanding debts or bank loans. I suspect that investors have portfolios, they have loan to value, they may need a bank, they might need to understand what they can and can't leverage. At the end of the day, having this type of contract doesn't require a FICO score, but it requires a simple liquidity, and you can do with it as you see fit. It's under your control. And the power of knowing how to safely leverage, this is something that I want to bring attention to all of you, leverage your liquidity in your policy contract for investment purposes with no payback terms. That's right. When you borrow money from your life insurance contract, you can allow when you pass, to pay off the loan. But again, today primarily was to focus about IRS, but it's also to bring attention to the power of the idea of this strategy. So I suspect, Peggy, everyone here are real estate investors. Is that correct?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay, so I'll try to paint this picture. So all of you, or many of you, or some of you have gone out and bought homes or put money in investment program or a building of opportunity with Peggy. And I believe Peggy knows her business very well, and I believe in her business model. But now think about this. If you put it in this process and it reaps the great rewards that I understand it to be, how about if I showed you how to also put it into an insurance contract and let it grow tax-free and distribute tax-free, and take that money after it goes into the contract and put it into what Peggy's doing as well. And what we'll do is this. You will have two streams of growth, one inside the insurance contract and one within the group of what Peggy is doing. But now this is the part that I want you to imagine. let's say you had $1 million of liquidity that you grew and you made contributions and you took half of that money out. So let's say today is Tuesday, you had $1 million in this morning and you took out $500,000 to put it into Peggy's program. And now tomorrow, how much money do you have going to work for you in the contract? And how much money do you have in working with Peggy? So let's frame that question. I'm going to put it to Eugene. So Eugene, you have $1 million in this insurance cash accumulation contract that's compliant to the tax rule 7702. You take out $500,000 and you buy real estate or you invest in Peggy's program. Two questions. How much money is going to work for you in the insurance contract? Remember, there was $1 million in the morning. You took $500,000 out. How much is going to work for you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock?
$1 million or half
That's
a million?
I'm sorry.
It's $1 million, right?
I was waiting for your answer. Okay. You said $1
$1
million.
million.
Yes,
$1
the
million.
answer is correct. And how much money is going to work for you with the $500,000 you took out of the contract and put it in Peggy's program? How much is going to work for you there?
$500,000.
Exactly. Now you have two revenue streams and they're complementing each other, helping one another. And when you need capital or more capital, all you have to do is go to that cash accumulation contract like Walt Disney did or Ray Kroc and put it to work in another vehicle. Peggy, that makes sense?
Makes sense to me.
Good, good. All right. So now, by the way, before I go into this, we only have 2 more slides to look at. Jonah, question, did you know that you could borrow and leverage without sacrificing the power of the leverage in the insurance contract and then put your money to work in another program like Peggy's and create 2 revenue streams? Did you know that was available and that part that you said you are involved a little? So did you know that was true to what you've done, what you've organized with?
I was aware that it was possible, but I have not seen the policies that do that.
Okay. Well, and if you will contact me or communicate through Peggy to me, and Peggy's been very nice to open the door to other people to me, I'm happy to give you a little summary of what you have and what you could do with it and so on. And we do that complimentary. Education is what we're all about.
Thank you.
Our best customer is an educated customer, one who knows what they have, how to leverage and apply what they have to make it even better. Okay, so I'm going to take to the next slide here, and this one should grab a lot of people's attention. So here is there's 3 ways to do an example plan. There's a liquidity plan, which means this is an investor. They want to know how it should grow and how can they use it. There's another plan where you could just use it for retirement. So, you put money in over so many years and you hit 65 or retirement age, you start taking distribution. The third is you can use both. Obviously, in your business life, you're going to use it to buy things or invest things. And then when you get to the point of retirement, then you use it for another purpose, or you can use it for both. Okay, so here's an example of and this is going to illustrate it 7.46% annually. Contributions of $1 million has made it easy for the math purpose for 7 years. Could be 10,000, could be 100,000, could be any of these numbers. Year 2, you have $1.2 million of liquidity. Year 5, you'd have 4.2. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to emphasize we are showing you an illustration of 7.46. The index that I favor is a Morgan Stanley index that has historically been doing 11.36% over the last 20 years. Okay, that's tax-free. So if you like those kind of numbers, tax-free, you might want to know more about this. Now, this is someone who says, in year 4, I'm going to do this. In year 9, I'm going to do this. But I'll put it back. I'm going to move it around like leveraging a bank. It's like being your own bank. Year 10, 8 million. Year 20, 16 million, 579. Year 30, 34 million. And year 40, 69. And that's proposing that he would live till he was 90. Okay, so let's take a look at that kind of growth. Is that possible? Compound interest tax-free is very powerful. It's the eighth wonder of the world. If any of you would like to see this in real math, meaning in the carrier's way I do the examples, I'll be happy to provide. It's a fairly lengthy information, but it's an open book, and I'm happy to share it. These numbers were extracted from an example I did today. If this plan did as it did for the last 20 years, and what happened yesterday cannot be guaranteed for the future tomorrow, but let's say it did more or less. This number is 40% below what is expected to really be. 40% lower. Why do we do that? Insurance companies want to make sure people are happy, not disappointed. And I will say this, half the contracts that are written, not under the 702S plan, but in this type of industry are either written wrong or they're written to pad the backside of someone who is not taking the client as the primary interest, but themselves. Our plan guarantees the least amount of insurance to give the most growth, so the IRS tax code is compliant and you're able to achieve all the wealth you could ever imagine. Question is, yeah, go ahead.
David's asked a question. I did answer it, but it's better to come from you. And he was asking, is this gross earnings?
This is the original amount is 1 million. This is only an example, 1 million per year for 7 years. And this is a growth as 1 year went in, 1 million went in. Second year, third year. So for the first 7 years, 7 went in. And as you get to year 10, you'd say, okay, so by year 7, you put 7 million, but you only got to 8. That's 1 million added. That, William, that doesn't sound so well. There's $18 million worth of insurance that is back that up and backs that number up. And that's a paid up policy where all that insurance is cash, where in the event of passing and or something should happen in a living scenario. I didn't want to overwhelm people today with a lot of information of how many benefits there are, but at year
so there's payments that have to be made, right? So those payments go into the contract,
right,
and grow the contract also. So if you've got your $1 million and you're paying, let's say, $1,000 a month into your account, then that is also earning. So that's part of what your math is here, right? So whatever your payments are for your contract also counts for this. And then all the interest it earns is paid into the contract, what, monthly or quarterly?
It's actually yearly, and it continues to compound over the next year and so on.
Like
it's
they
accredited.
Only pay that interest. They only pay that interest once a year. They don't pay it monthly.
It's actually accredited. The contracts once a year. Once a year. So when the movement of the actual amount accredited by the index, it's done once a year. The interest is building and it's being accredited, but it doesn't reflect only once a year. That's how they do these contracts.
Okay. And his other question is, what does it cost to have? Is there a fee that he has to pay for the contract? What is the cost to maintain each contract?
Okay, that's two parts. There's an insurance cost, normally 1%, and there's fees that they have, for managing the contract. Normally it's a little over about 1.5%. Okay, I will make note that the cost of this literal cost that we're talking about, 1.5%, it starts high, and by the time normally after 15 or maybe a little bit more than that, the costs come down to virtually nothing. In managed business or managed accounts, the cost of managing accounts starts small and then it goes in the opposite direction, goes up. So people who manage money, those costs start slow and build up high. This goes high and low. It's the opposite. And where there's a compensation to me for the first time or first year, and a little over a 10-year period of time. If it's managed money, it grows over a whole lifetime. It never stops. It actually just keeps getting more and more. So in the words of fees, this would be much less expensive than it would be if it was a managed money situation. I think that's probably where that question might have derived from. And if I can answer any more added to that, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, this is David. Sorry about
Good
that.
question.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, David, go ahead.
Okay. I was told by, I'm not sure if this is IUL or another product of insurance contract, but based on the earnings of it, it's on stocks, right? It's on the stock market.
It's accredited by mirroring an index. The money is never invested in the stock market itself. Never invested.
Index funds, things like that.
No, that's what Dave Ramsey says, and it confuses people. And that's something that's been brought to light. This is not invested in the stock market. It is not to do with index funds. It is, this particular illustration was created as a mirror to a Morgan Stanley index that the company that I work with uses, and that product is how this gets accredited. Their last 20 years have been historically a little over 11%. Okay, but it is not an index fund, and it's not invested directly in the stock market. Your money can never be lost.
So I've looked into this, and I'm kind of on the fence. I'm getting both sides of it. And,
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure.
And I was told that the costs are like the index, 4 or 5% plus the fees and so forth. So it could cost you up to 6 or 7%. Is that true?
No. What I'll do is this, David. If you, in the event you wish to contact me or work with Peggy and get to me, and I'm an open book here, I can run any example and run an expense sheet that's all through the insurance company's program. So it's not like the numbers I make up and create them. I'll print them right from, and I'll even screen share with you so we can see eye to eye exactly what those costs are and expenses. I will tell you that the expense of an IUL starts high and goes down. Managed money starts low and goes up. And most people that ever do an IUL normally have been involved in managed money, in most cases.
Okay, you mentioned there's some contracts out there that you've mentioned that were set up wrong.
Probably more than 50% of IUL contracts in the United States have been created either wrong because the person didn't know better, or the person wanted to increase the insurance in order to get a bigger insurance commission, because there's an incentive. And that's why people want, or people choose me, because they say, you know, William, what is 702 plan? It's not an insurance company. No, it is a strategy. And I guarantee you, and I can show it to you when we run models, that it allows the compliance to the IRS rule within a $7 amount of 7 physical dollars to be the lowest amount of insurance. So it gives you the best growth. And I, again, fully transparent when I run those models through the platform of the insurance company. And unfortunately, Doug Andrews echoes the same words. People do take advantage of circumstances, or they do it not knowing what they're doing, and they just run these models. Remember, insurance companies want to sell insurance. Most people that work as a captured insurance agent want to do whatever pleases them. I work for the customer. I'm an advocate for the consumer. So I go to work for you, not for the insurance company. I'm appointed by them, but my dedication and loyalty is to you as the customer.
Yeah, I was introduced by this from Doug Edwards. And I never went forward with it. I was just kind of confused on it. So, but
yeah, it can be overwhelming, and that's why today I wanted to focus really on the ability of the growth, that it is tax-free, and that it's because of an IRS rule 7702. Most people do not know, even your tax people and all that. They don't look for a rule built 45 years ago. They're looking for today's current tax rules, and that's why they know what today's. But this is something that's gone back a long time ago. So.
And what is your background?
I was a mortgage banker just before the crash. When I found out that they were handing out loans to hurt people, I walked away from that business. I've been in a consultant arena, and I worked in 30 years of import, export, retail, and family business. So I love to work hard. I've been servicing people and run work since I was 6 and been selling since 8. I was taking American Express cards when I was probably about 4 foot tall, and most people looked at me and said, I'll take it, and here's my American Express card. But I've been servicing the public for I guess about 54 years.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome. And happy to go through any detail with you at another time. Be happy to do it. You learn so much and you'll know the truth. And one last thing, there are many Google snippets. And in case if you don't know what that is, that's this little part that Google will capture. And there are many of those that are wrong, misinformation about IULs. And unfortunately, it's disappointing, but Google is only a search bar or search engine. They're not the IUL police, but at the end of the day, there is much misinformation on the internet about IUL. All right, so let's look at our key takeaways, because I know Peggy would love to hear about this for hours, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So key takeaways today: your wealth accumulates and distributes completely tax-free when it is compliant within the rule of IRS Code 7702. All my 702S plans are compliant with the IRS. Okay. We take advantage of the upside of the stock market with zero risk to your principal. I believe as an investor, that must be very important. I mean, I don't know this business. What happens if the market crashes? What happens if it moves below zero? You will not lose a penny. Not one client of mine who complained, not one client has lost $1, and they will never lose $1, because the zero floor protects you from losing when the market doesn't go in anyone's favor. Leverage your liquidity by having it work for you in your other investments, like real estate, Peggy, while it grows inside your policy contract. So this is where we'll pretty much end here. So we have an insurance contract that has cash accumulation and liquidity. Let's say it's creating 30 years, so 10, 20, 30%. 30% tax-free. But what happens if that year you pulled out $300,000, gave it to Peggy? Peggy shared with me that her companies provide investment returns of 10, 12, 15, and more percent. Is that correct, Peggy?
Yes.
Okay, so if you gain 18 over here or 15 tax-free, and you gain another 10, 15, or 20 over here, let's say it's 15, that's 30%. You don't have to live many, that's incredible.
But if you're making your 15% outside of the contract, when you put your money back into the contract, your 300,000, and you've got 15% on top of that, is that tax-free?
Any money that you make, when you borrow money from the contract, that money is tax-free. It's a loan. If you take that money and you buy stock or put it into something that creates a wealth, over and above an income, I cannot speak for what that is taxable or non-taxable based on how much and how it was, what it involved, because I'm not a tax attorney and I don't want to pretend to be one. But I can tell you, Peggy, you tell me, when customers or when clients of yours win 15% for the year in their real estate investments, is there a taxation there?
Not out of their Roth IRAs.
Okay. So there's two right there that compare each other on a tax-free. And I believe most people would prefer to have more money tax-free to be able to give to their families or multiply their wealth and build upon that. At the end of the day, we want better for our lives and families.
Yes, they should be doing both.
Yep. 2 revenue streams for the price of 1. I think that's a win-win. And our last slide, and if anyone wants a copy of this, I'm going to send Peggy this PDF and you can scan it for yourself. Here you can request your example plan. There's a code to the left, red and blue, or request a virtual one-on-one with me. You can do that with the other barcode, which is blue and brown. It says schedule appointment. Or if you'd like, and I'm old fashioned style kind of guy. I like telephone call and speak to the person at their best time availability. I'm available normally Monday through Saturday, and I do see people on Sunday. Again, at the end of the day, for me, it's about enjoyment of sharing and teaching people and educating people on something that if all of us knew and applied this, if we're all very young, imagine what that will do to the financial future of our country. It will be very positive, very, very positive. Peggy, I send the back to you. You're the host here. I'm thankful that you asked me to come again. Again, today we spoke a little bit less about all these other more benefits and features, because at the end of the day, your investors want to hear about tax-free and also the protection of it and how to put it to work. So tax-free, I think, is for me and it's for everyone.
Yeah, I have to do some research on that and talk to a tax advisor that knows that. And yeah, and if you stop sharing,
Oh, yep.
yeah, we need to find out about that, because it's about strategies and not having to pay taxes if possible.
Yep.
So one of the strategies, if it's not taxable money, then do it all out of your compounding account. If it's taxable, then do half out of your Roth and half out of your compounding account. You'll have to pay taxes on a little bit, but not on everything.
Right. Yep.
So how do you keep making your money make money? That's what we like to talk about.
Yep.
That's the
Agreed.
fun part. So does anybody have any other questions for William? Because we're so glad you're here and that you're curious about it. And so let me ask you about age. So you said anybody could have a policy. I presume that it costs more as you're older because your life is shorter, right? When you're born, you've got maybe 100 or 120 years, and these days,
Right.
already 50 or 60, you have less days than you would if you were one. So do you have to go through a physical and that kind of thing? And do they have a minimum that you have to pay each month?
Well, when it comes to age, in an IUL or plan that we offer, the strategy is for those who are between, a newborn and up to 80 years of age. If I was 79 getting the plan, or 50 or 30 or 15 or 6 weeks old, they would be different plans, like a fingerprint, they'd all be different.
Okay.
There is the cost of insurance. And yes, you'd have to be approved. There is an insurance element. They'd be responsible. If you got diagnosed with an illness, that would come from the estate benefit. You don't have to die in order for this to work. But we all know that an insurance component of death or a death benefit does pay out when someone passes. So the costs are higher, but if you're putting a certain amount of money in and it is building and compounding, and that's why we run example models for everyone, we can give you a determination. What's the best way to go? So if Ted came to me and said, hey, William, I'm a little older. I might be a little late in the game, maybe, but I have a son who's 39 or a grandchild who's 18 or 3 or 12. Can I do something for them to create wealth for the next 50, 60, 80 years? The answer is yes, it would be. See, most people that are my age and older want to leave money so people relate death and, oh, grandpa gave me this. How about change that dialogue to, grandpa showed me all about compound interest and he got me a 702S plan when I was 4 years of age. Today, I'm able to buy a home. I can be living mostly tax-free. I don't have financial stress. And he left me a gift that just kept on giving. So again, depending on the objective of the person and the age of the person, we make and determine the best plan to approach that. If that makes sense.
So you could buy a plan for a grandchild without anybody else having to have the contract. So a parent doesn't have to have the contract, only the child.
The child would be the insured, the grandparent or parent could be the owner of the contract. if there is a grandparent, they need permission of the child, of their parents, obviously, because it has to be transparent. And that can be left as a wealth transfer at the end of the day, part of a trust, or simply a wealth transfer within a contract.
Oh,
So,
but it can't be for the child.
yeah, no, it would be for the child, but the child can't sign the contract and the child can't fund it. So there must be a funder or an administrator of the contract.
Is that
there's
based
not-
on the child's age?
If the child is 17 or less, there needs to be a person, an adult who signs the contract. If the child is an adult child, then anyone can fund that for the child.
So we're
If it's
talking
an
about
adult.
a brand new child, one that's
Yep.
just born, because that's the time to start. The parents could give permission, but is it based on that brand new baby?
Yeah, yes, the child, again, the baby would be the insured. The parents would own the contract and fund the contract, at which point they could release that contract. We call that transfer wealth, let's say to the child at 18 or at any age. And then that child can also continue, that child will go to work and fund the contract even more if they want to.
Right, and you could teach the child growing up how they could use it and how it could fund other things and grow. But but it's based on their age. So anybody can buy. Okay, that's great.
Yep.
And what a gift to give a child.
Exactly. The education of understanding what Warren Buffett has been preaching for decades about compound interest and saying, you know, grandpa showed me this, I understand it, this changed my life. Yes, one simple thing can change the life of a child when we're speaking financially, especially starting at that early age.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for William? Anybody? Well, we are almost at the top of the hour. David, you got all your questions answered so far? I know you have a lot of questions and we want to get them answered, but we'll set that up so you can do it one-on-one.
Yep. David, I look forward to answering your questions because I've spoken to many people. And when I say many, you know, maybe 30, 40 people over the last several years that get so much information. It's very confusing, conflicting stories. There's only one fact and one truth. And the rest are, he said that, she said that, and we all interpret it one way or another. At the end of the day, it does certain things, it doesn't do other things, and I'll make sure that I show you all the facts so you can make a conscious, intelligent decision.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Anyone else have any questions or thoughts? Well, William, thank you very much for being here today. We hope you will come back again because you're very informative, and what we like the most is you care about your client.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Peggy, very much. Thank all of you for allowing me to come.
You're welcome.